This is the Ag Engineering Podcast that rolls right into the details on tools, tips, and techniques that improve you, your farm, and our world. I'm your host, Andy Chamberlain from the University of Vermont Extension, and this podcast is sponsored by Northeast SARE. Thanks for listening. Today's episode comes to you from Southampton, New Hampshire, where I took a visit to one of the larger vegetable farms within the Northeast with Andre Cantelmo of Heron Pond Farm. Andre is quite the talker, and what I ended up doing was following him around the farm and talking about all kinds of equipment. So rather than sitting down around the table with microphones, we walked around the farm with a microphone and camera in hand. So there will be a series of 5 or 6 episodes coming up, all with Andre, and that's going to cover things like coolers, cultivation equipment, no-till practices, and some really fun innovations from TerraTech equipment. So whether you're a small or large vegetable farm, you're going to get a lot out of this because he has experience with a wide range of vegetable farming equipment. So I hope you enjoy these episodes. They're a little bit different than the typical format that we followed. Let me know if you like it. In this first episode, you get to know Andre and his farm a little bit, and then we dive into details on no-till. We talk about a no-till planter, flail mowers, soil health, and weed pressure. Super interesting topic for me, so I hope you get a lot out of it as well. Here we go.
My name is Andre Cantelmo. We're here at Heron Pond Farm in Southampton, New Hampshire, where we grow 60 acres of mixed vegetables and gross between $1 million, $1.5 million a year. We have diversity in sales with wholesale, direct-to-consumer, roadside stand, farmers market, and CSA. We carry 8 employees in the winter because we're a 4-season farm, and we do between 25 and 30 in the summer. I've been farming since 1996 in New Hampshire. So, and before that I farmed with my uncle in the summers at his market garden, which was, a little 1-acre market garden.
Oh, what's your climate zone?
5B.
Okay.
We actually recorded this part of the episode at the very end of the day, and I asked Andre, what does the future look like for your farm? And he's definitely one to invest in equipment or infrastructure where it matters, and this is what he had to say.
My long-term plan is like, I gotta bite the bullet. It's just like, you get to my age and you're thinking, what should I do? Mm-hmm. Is my kid, because I could do this for like 20 more years.
Yeah.
So, do I spend another $1 million on a building? And it better go to my kid, because
Right.
Who's gonna buy the building? Like, who's gonna come into this? You drove here.
Yeah.
We're in suburbia. It's not like where you're from. Like, if you go down the block, you're in like the city.
Yeah, it's a nice community around here.
Yeah, I mean, we're farming in people's backyards, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Like, you drive down the block, you look in everybody's backyard, you see that the fields keep going. It's because
So to put up an industrial style building
here, and then what's it gonna be? Like, who? Like, you run, like, not like every other business, but every other business has a balance sheet, right? Mm-hmm. And it shows you what it's worth. I put up that barn, it was 80 grand, right? Okay. So you have the replacement value, you have other things going on, but maybe the barn's a bad example because maybe somebody would move in here and want that barn. But you buy all this stuff, and if I was like a CNC factory, and I owned the building, and I owned all the CNC equipment, and I owned the stuff, and a certain amount of depreciation, but the real estate was going up or whatever, you could sell the whole business. You would get the balance sheet value of the business plus what's called goodwill, if you had a good brand, right?
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So you'd sell that. You're selling a brand. Who the heck is going to give you what you got in this? Or what the balance sheet plus good? No, there's no one in their right mind.
It's good development land. But that's not
the
not
point.
what we stand for.
That's not the point.
No.
And so I'm going to put up a very specific use building. It's going to be $1 million.
Loading docks, coolers.
Yeah.
Whole drains.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, everything costs. Everything costs.
This next section covers no-till. We walked by a corn planter and we dove into what it took to modify it in order to work in a no-till system, and then the kind of rotation and cultivation practices he uses within that system.
Converted that Pequot planter to no-till.
Okay.
I highly recommend it to anybody because better seed to soil contact no matter what soil conditions. And we also, we do what's called now high trash farming, not necessarily no-till,
Yeah.
but it'll go through anything.
Which is funny because I've heard like that type of planter is generally not like the best planter.
Oh, I love this planter.
Okay, good.
Like with that setup on it. This is all stuff out of, these are like Yetter equipment.
Yeah, those are some gnarly.
Oh, well, look at this. Take off the stock spring set. This is not stock. And this is the down pressure
Yep.
for your press wheels. And this is your depth wheel, right? So we put new cutting discs. Obviously, these are for cutting into sod. But then we got new heavy duty cut discs. And then the spring and the side shank that does the gauge, this is a new. This is aftermarket as well, right in here. And then this is the other thing that we did. These fertilizer discs are way oversized, and then it's got a fertilized cut collar.
And then we move down the line to his Forego flail mower.
This is a beast too. If it was in the air, you could see the hammers on this sucker. What's great about this is cover cropping. Like, you know, sometimes like you're like, oh, I gotta really manage that cover crop before it's out of hand, or you couldn't. Like, I would not grow Sudan grass here.
Yeah.
Because it was like, we can't do anything. I can never get rid of it. I can't mow it. It just like swirls around and clogs up my brush hog. A good flail mower, boy, you can grow different cover crops. You can grow on just your bed system and just take the flail out and just mow that bed and then incorporate just that one. Plus it makes it, like so fine that like it incorporates better into the ground for like, like those fine seeded crops and stuff. The other thing is, with this and the no-till planter, I don't plow for corn at all. I mow down my cover crop, or I crimp it. I wait a little bit. I go in, no-till. Whatever cover crop stands back up, we flail right to the ground, and it doesn't catch up to the corn after that. And
Okay.
like I got funny looking corn that like the corn's this high, and I have like little rye stubble that's like this high. But I'm like, I don't know, throw a little extra fertility down.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like, yeah, it's just an interseeded cover crop at that point. I don't know, but I mean, yeah.
So you're flailing down the old corn.
We flail down old corn. Yeah.
Yeah.
We flail down old corn. We put a cover crop in with a no-till drill
Yeah.
for a cover crop. And then, yeah, I have corn land that I haven't plowed in years, like 3 years. I've had the no-till planter for 3 years. So that's how long. I've got some corn land that hasn't seen a chisel plow, a moldboard,
Nice.
nothing for that long.
My grandparents' farm, we grow 6 acres of sweet corn. Traditionally, so far, with
Yeah.
moldboard plow,
Yeah.
disc,
Yeah.
harrow,
A lot of work.
a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I'd love to get to a no-till system eventually here.
That and this are essential. If you don't want to use herbicides, you definitely need a crimper.
Crimper. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to get into that because we do 3 acres of pumpkins too. And
Pumpkins
I've
are
seen-
easy to do no-till.
I've seen them
Easy.
done really well.
They have a no-till attachment for that chechi.
Ah,
You can put the transplants in,
transplanting pumpkins.
or that cedar will pop them. You could see pumpkins with that.
So you could roll down your rye and then.
You roll down the rye.
and then,
My trick is flailing the stuff that pops back up. Other guys you could
so
use.
that's your Your pre-emergent trait.
My pre-emergent herbicide
is the flail.
Well, the other thing is that after you roll it, it's just like sometimes it mats and sometimes it really doesn't mat. Like they only show you the pictures of the perfect shit, but if you take the flail through, it looks like you ted it. Straw.
Yeah.
And then the planter goes through it like butter.
Right, because it's
Whereas
not all on stalks.
sometimes if you roll it, you can only plant in the direction it's rolled. You can't plant in the other direction.
Right.
But if it's if it's rolled, crimped, dead in flail mode, you can plant in either direction.
Nice.
So
then, yeah, you can go the long way on the field to do all the flailing and whatnot, and then you can plant the short way.
you can
for
do
like
it any
corn,
way
which
you
is what we
want.
do.
Yeah, I mean, or no, the problem with the crimper is the crimpers are like, unless, they've been trying to incorporate crimpers with the planters. So they have ones that go in the front of your tractor and you crimp and plant all of it at the same time. I'm not sophisticated enough to do any of that. I can't get that working. I'll never get out there and like crimp like when my cover crop needs crimping, it has to be crimped. It's not like I'm ready to plant or, it's time for that planting. Like I don't have it down to like where I'm...
Right, because you need to crimp when you need to crimp and you need to plant when you need to plant. That's not
always aligned like the universe. Especially if you go with like rye vetch. You let that vetch go long. You know what? I have spent hours pulling vetch out of that thing. I have spent like clumps of it. I have pictures of like the row markers. You know how you're going through? And you have to, no-till you have to use a row marker with the foam because otherwise you don't know where you are. You can't see your tire prints. You think, how am I not going to see the tire print? It's gone pretty fast. You'll come back and find corn that's like weaving it out of each other. So you have to use a foam marker.
Yeah.
Well, when you're using the foam marker, there's an arm that goes down. Well, with a vetch, I've gotten to the end of rows and like you can't even see my foam because there's so much vetch on the end of my marker.
It's all wadded up.
It's all wadded up and like I just got like, I got pictures of just like that, but you go out and you look at that field and it looks like a salad bowl.
Yeah.
And then you plant corn in it, and then you go out like in one of these New England falls where like trucks are sinking to the bottom of it, and like everywhere on the farm. But you go out to pick corn, and you could drive your friggin' tractor, your truck, everything. You can bring a trailer out there and just pick right into the trailer because the ground hasn't been disturbed or moved or anything. It's fine. Doesn't care.
And healthy soil.
Oh yeah, the soil's are, and then you go and burn it to the ground with greens. That's what we do. We build the soils up to set fire to them.
That's nice though that you're building it up over corn. Typically, corn is known to take soil down, just on the way you handle the soil.
Yeah. I mean, if you sell off the stubble to to cows and stuff, then I think that you probably are not doing well. But like the no-till system and keeping the chaff on the ground, you probably are slightly gaining. Right. I have never done the math. I mean, I always think it's got to be insanely difficult to build while cropping. It's just inherent. Like plants exhale CO2 as well. I mean, they do oxygen, but they also exhale CO2. So, I mean, I don't know the numbers. I think it would be interesting to see. But the no-till systems are definitely better. And I tell you, like the soil, after 3 years of no-till, and then you go in, like we also do like no-till cover cropping in our fallow ground. So our fallow patch that follows us, which is only 5 acres of fallow a year, which needs to be like 50. But so that patch that you're going through, like by the time you get through its system, because it goes cover crops, grain crop, grain and straw. So then you make straw out of it, and so then you're into crops again. And so you plow that on it. I mean, like you're the one that plowed it last time, and then you come back and you're like, I mean, I don't need a scientist to come out here and tell me that isn't better. Your soil's sticking together. It's got these beautiful aggregates. You see the biological activity. The Cornell soil tests, I don't know if everybody's going to convert to them. They have the biological index testing. Do you know about that?
No.
That is a great soil test. So you can do your saturated medium, which we started doing in greenhouses, but we're doing like 2 sets of soil tests and doing comparisons with them, you can do saturated medium tests for outside as well. And so you do the saturated medium, which is normally like your desert soils, your highly irrigated soils, which until this year we were like, we're basically, it's all a greenhouse because it's not raining. The only water here is what we put on it, you know? So that's what made us think, oh, we should maybe start doing the saturated medium tests, you know, for salt builds up and stuff like that. Really helps you with those. And, but Cornell sends you back and you're like, there's like this little chart on the bottom, biological index. And it's like you got like red to green, you know, and everything in between. It's like when you have red, you're like, ooh, dead soil, you know? And so I was heartened by looking at that and saying, oh, well, the ones that are in poor condition are soils I knew were in poor conditions, and the ones that are in good conditions are the ones I kind of thought would be in good conditions.
That's good. It backed up your
So
your
I like, you know,
impressions.
I'm not my impressions, but you know, understanding what's there and like going with their recommendations. You know, you can if you get an agronomist or if you talk to another consultant, they can look at these tests and be like, you know, you should be cropping this way. Or if you've been thinking about it long enough, you can be like, well, we should stay away from these crops, and this is the kind of things that we know that we build soils with, and so we should just be like, you know, we should turn and do more of that.
We continued to walk around the farm, talk about other equipment, and then went up to some Haygrove high tunnels that were up in another field. I was still thinking about no-till, so here's another question that came to mind as I was digesting and absorbing what he had to say earlier as we're riding in the truck up to these next fields. How's the weed management on your no-tilled corn?
Non-existent. Meaning I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
We're not an organic farm though.
Right.
And if 90% of the time we don't have to do anything, but we have used Callisto.
But for the most part, because you're making a mulch layer.
And we haven't broken the ground.
All right, so your weed seed bank is not reemerging.
Especially when you get to the years 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Like even that little
you notice it gets better and better.
every year.
And your ground is not exposed because you put it right into a cover crop right after, and then that mulches the next year.
And then we, like I said, we use the straw. Sometimes I'll harvest the straw and plant right into the stubble.
Yeah. And that's fine too.
And a straw, you put between rows of plastic mulch. And talk about reducing compaction. Not only from walking, it's the raindrops. When it rains in between blocks, oh my God, it turns it into just like friggin' cake. And then, but if you don't have that, I mean, oh God, it's freaking beautiful. You see it as like, you go remove the mulch and just to look underneath it. See like all these worm castings, and you can take your hand and go like that through the soil. And you've been working there all year.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If I can ask you or direct you to do one thing, that is to go to the website for this podcast, agengpodcast.com. That's agengpodcast.com. There you'll find the show notes. You'll find links to the farmer who we chatted with today, as well as photos or videos from the call when I visited the farm. If you've got some feedback to share, my contact information's on there, or you can leave me a voicemail, and you can do that right from the link in the description in the mobile app you're listening to this to. So go ahead and do that. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you have a great day.